about some stuff like what the numbers are on a staff, what the notes are, what the names of these notes are, and what I realized was there's a good amount of information. So I just want to rewrite the whole thing and talk about that and have some fun. If you have any questions about this while I'm doing it, go ahead and throw it in there. As I say generally, the way that we learn music is by doing it, and if you are not doing it, then you are not learning it. I've read many books, and I have thought about stuff, but until you put your fingers on an instrument and have it on practical application, it is really hard to make a correlation between all this information. So, baby steps. Our first piece of information is this. In music, there are 7 notes. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, at least in the Western ear. Those notes of A, B, C, D, E, F, G go in order. The key that has no sharps or flats is called C major, and it's because when we write it out, 1 chord, 2 chord, 3 chord, and 4 chord, 5 chord, 6 chord, and 7 chord of a diatonic scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, in the Western ear having 7 notes. The reason why we call this a diatonic scale is because whenever you have a triad, in this case, your first chord would be C, E, and G. These notes are on a staff that is called the treble clef. The C is on a ledger line, E is on the bottom line, and G is on the G clef. Hence, the treble clef is called G clef. Whenever we have these notes, we can see how all of the other notes are still in here. They're just not being represented by the 1, 3, and the 5, which is called a major triad. When we go to our next note, which is on the 2, 4, and 6, it gives us a triad that is above the C major. It is known as D minor because the dyad, or the distance between D and F, is not the same as the distance between C and E. There are 4 minor seconds, and there are 3 minor seconds in between a major third and a minor third. There's a difference. So the distance between the C to the E and the D to the F, even though they look the same, is a distance that adds on 1/2 step, the smallest distance in the Western ear. So having said that, all of this information can be categorized. We call these positions, and each one of these harmonies, or dyads, the first of them create the major third or the minor third. So when we play C major, we have in between C major a C sharp. We have a D sharp. E sharp is F. That's our 1/2 step. When we do F sharp, G sharp, and A sharp, we're exhibiting that we have a minor second. This is our tonic or our root, major second, major third, perfect fourth, perfect fifth, major 6, major 7. In between a major 6 and a major 7, we have A sharp or B flat, both are the same note and harmonically, same tone, but they're both named as such. Of course, G sharp would be A flat, F sharp would be G flat. Again, F flat is E. E flat is the same as D sharp, and then D flat is the same as a C sharp. When we do that scale of 12 notes is called a chromatic scale. 7 notes is called a diatonic scale. So when we see our scale preferences, we are most absolutely talking about a defined grouping. Chromatic scales move in 1/2 step. Diatonic scales move in whole step, 1/2 step, whole step, whole step, whole step, 1/2 step. And they're otherwise named as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. When we do this, we are naming this first modus Ionian. And all music is analyzed through the eyes of the major, Ionian. So where I'm at right now, if you have any questions about this, throw it up there. Otherwise, I'm going to keep on going. I'm going to check the channel, make sure I'm not crazy. All right. So after this, what we're going to have is another really cool way of explaining all these intervals. Remember, in between, this is the minor second, minor third. There isn't anything between E and F because that is one of our half steps. Whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. When we go through these, this is called the augmented fourth or the flat five. You could also call it a diminished fifth because anytime you go down in pitch, you are diminishing by a half step. And anytime you go up, boy, Professor, what about microtonality? Don't pretend that doesn't exist. Yeah, it does. For every one single tone in a semitone, you have 4 different microtonal resonances that allow the note to have either a double flattening, almost towards a triple flattening, double flattening, a naturalization, a sharpening, and then a double sharpening. These allow the tone to have variances. 432, 438, 440, 444, 445, 448. These all have a slightly different wavelength, which has a different peak and a different trough. Therefore, even if a chord is slightly off, you will definitely hear it because it adds a different level of dissonance. But we're going to get to that in a second. When we play our C and our E and our G, these notes are our consonances. So each one of our chord has a consonant. Whenever we have a note that's not the consonant, like a 1, 3, and then maybe a sharp 5, augmenting that, we have something that builds tension. And the 1 to sharp 5 is absolutely going to build a lot of tension. Here's our 1, 5. Here's our 1 sharp 5. So the idea is all music is based off of tertiary harmony. It's either going to be a consonant or it's going to be that destructive dissonance that we just talked about. So being able to go through here and see that all of our chords and all of our notes, like in C major, no sharps and flats, have C, E, G, D, F, A, E, G, B, F, A, C, G, B, D, A, C, E, B, D, F, and then the last chord, you betcha, back up to C, E, and then G again. This is our 1 chord, 2 chord, 3 chord, 4 chord, 5 chord, 6 chord, 7 chord. The most confusing thing is that the major 6 and the major 7, they're not major triads. It's the interval is a distance of a major 6, and the distance in between is a minor 6. Major 7, minor 7. So knowing that these are that, those are them, these are these, you can add another note. If we took our 1 chord here, which is our C major, C, E, and G, and I wanted to make it into a major 7, I would put the B note, thusly making this an extended chord and having 3 notes plus my 4th one, which is the B. Hey, Evie. Makes perfect sense. Good. For the first time, it's starting to make sense. I'm so glad. I'm doing this video for a student, but I'm answering a couple questions really quickly, so the process of learning is for everybody. As far as this goes, if we were to add our 3rd note here, let's make our D minor, which is a D, F, A, and we make this into a D minor 7. This means we're going to need to have this as being a minor 3rd. Well, it makes sense to know that a D to an F sharp is a major 3rd, D to an F is a minor 3rd, and whenever you have a triad, the only triad out of all the triads, which would be major triad, minor triad, diminished triad, and augmented, this is a 1, 3, 5, this is a 1 flat 3, 5, this is a 1 flat 3, flat 5, and this is a 1, 3 sharp 5. The only one that has that augmentation, it doesn't have perfect tertiary with minor 3rd, major 3rd, is this. Our major is a major 3rd plus a minor 3rd. Our minor flips that. It's a minor 3rd plus a major 3rd. Our diminished chord is going to be a minor 3rd plus a minor 3rd. And then lastly, our augmented would be a major 3rd plus a major 3rd. Those are the 4 different states of being. Major, minor, augmented, and diminished. So if we wanted to make this a D minor 7, we would play D to F, F to A, and then we would need to add one more note. We would add the C. Stacking these, minor third, major third, minor third. I hope that makes sense. That is how we have extended chord creation. If I wanted to keep going up past my 7, let's say I wanted in the key of D to add my E, this would be a 9 chord. Change this to 9, D minor 9. If I did not have the minor 7th in there, stacking these tertiarily, and I made a big old jump from the A to the E, A, B, C, D, E, a whole beep boop, perfect 5th, we would then call this D minor add 9. Because the triad is still there, but we don't have the 7th. So we have these 3 notes as the foundation triad, and we're simply adding the 9. If we put the 7th in, we have a much more stable foundation, which is called a C minor 9. Otherwise, we don't have that, and we are left with 3 notes with a possible 4th. Nice. I dropped my pen. All right. So when we take these chords, we find that chord construction allows us to move things around using this 12-note, 7-note system. One of the really cool things we could do when we're composing or learning new songs is to do chordal substitutions. Because our C major and our A minor share a key, oh geez. Because they share a chord, that means that we're able to actually kind of split the difference, if you will. C major and A minor, same chord. F major, D minor, same chord basically. Major, minor tonality. G major, E minor. And then lastly, if we have a B diminished, our B diminished sounds a lot like a G7. So that's the concept that we just explained by using our minor 7th. And what we'd like to do is say that when you see chords like a C major 7, there are scales or modes that work fine over the top of them, and then there are scales or modes that do not work fine. Cool, you had a question there? C add 9, you add a D? Yeah, absolutely. C add 9, you would put a finger, or you would play the preference or sing the D note. So when you were playing like a C, C9, C add 9, C would be C, E, G, and then you would just add the 9. Well, the 9 chord would be D. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. The only notes that we use are going to be the 2, which is called the 9th. We're going to use the 4, which is called the 11th, and we use the 6, which is called the 13th. So if you had a chord that was called a, how about a F major 13 flat 9? Ooh-wee! 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, treble clef. Let's keep in the key of C. When we put our bars on, we have a measure. We have our ledger line that holds our C. We've got, we started with the F. We're going to put our F note right here. Here's our F. So to build this, we'd have F, A, C. That's our major chord. Now we need the major 7th. So the major 7th in the key of F is E. So we would put the E there. And then because we want the 13th, we're going to be going up. So if we go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. We would be playing the D note. Well, it doesn't matter where you put the D. If I put it right there, that's a D. Awesome. So now we've got this structure. And then if we wanted a flat 9, the 2, F, G, the 9. So we could put a G in here and have this G and make it a flat. Do we see how we had all those? And I put this G right here. G flat. So when I go over to the piano and I play these notes, F, A, C, and then I put a G flat in there, F, A, and then we're going to throw in our D note, and we're going to throw in our E note. Now it doesn't sound that great as a polytone cluster, but if you spread them out, doesn't that build a lot of tension? What a weird chord. Now, not all chords are the best chords in the world, however, that's the whole reason why we do music analysis and we figure out different chords and different stuff. It makes it a lot more fun to start writing in. So let's see here. one of the really cool things we could do is see our tonality and shift them, and what I want to move into now is the circle of fifths, and then how to see tonality through that, and then start to use our modes, or our moods, our moduses. When we play C major and go 5 notes away, we get G. C to G, and then to D. D goes to A goes to E goes to B goes to F sharp, and then F sharp goes to C sharp. All of these are 7 minor seconds away. Meaning when we play C to G, we have a C sharp and a C making a diatone, a dissonance. C sharp to D is another diatone, but C to D is a major second, as we saw right here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Those are the 7 notes that we use to keep going around the circle. When we write these notes out, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G, D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, C sharp, D, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, B, B, C sharp, D sharp, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B, C sharp, D sharp, E sharp, F sharp, and then lastly C sharp, D sharp, E sharp, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, and B sharp. That gives you all of your circle of fifths. What I was showing my student for today is that you don't really need to know the circle of force, because this circle of fifths is sufficient for you to know all the notes on the other side, right? When we go to the other side, circle of force, we have an F, has 1 flat. That flat is B flat. B flat then goes to E flat. B flat has 2 flats, 3 flats. E flat goes to A flat, 4 flats. D flat and C sharp are enharmonically the same note, as we were just talking about. So they, 5 flats, 7 sharps. I'd much rather write in a key that has 5 flats than write in a key that has 7 sharps, believe me. Although it just kind of depends on where your ear wants to go and what tonality you want. This one is a G flat, and then this is a C flat. Hence, C flat is a B. B sharp is a C. I don't really teach any of my students how to do the flats. I play a game. Ready? How many sharps are in C? None. How many sharps are in G? 1. How many notes are there in a diatonic scale? 7. Cool. Take away that 1 sharp. How many flats in the key of G flat? 6. It's the same. The only note in the... No! I keep dropping my pens. The only note in the key of G flat that is not a flat is the same note in the key of G. That's the sharp. There is an F natural in the key of G flat. When we sharpen or augment any of these, we get G natural, A natural, B natural, C natural, D natural, E natural, and then F natural goes to F sharp. That's why the circle of fifths is great to look at. You can look at these and then go, okay, how many are in the key of A? None, 1, 2, 3. The first sharp in the key of G is F. The second sharp in the key of D, F and C sharp. A has F, C sharp, and G sharp. E, F, C, G, and D sharp. So when you get to F sharp, you have F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, D sharp, A sharp, and E sharp. The only note in the key of F sharp that is not a flat or sharp is that B. So, I'm learning, finally. Ali Patches. If you haven't checked out Ali Patches' channel, go check it out. Lots of fun. Also some fun piano. What up there, Butterfingers? Let's see here. Is he teaching how to make meth? Andrew, chill. In fact, you know what? Are you the Andrew Tate? I hope you are. All right. And honestly, I'm just getting rid of your screen name because I don't approve of anything Andrew Tate does. He's a very, very bad man. Very, very bad man. Selling sugar water. All right, here we go. If we look at this and see it through the eyes of the circle, you can always figure out what key has a flat from your sharp. So how many sharps are in the key of B? There are 5 sharps in the key of B. How many flats in the key of B flat? 2. The only 2 notes that aren't the ones in the key of B are the only 2 notes in the key of B that aren't sharps, B and E. So when we say B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B. When we flatten all these, we get B flat, C, D, E flat, F, G, A. Ta-da. Cool? That's how we use the circle of fifths to see chords. Now, the other way we look at it is this. All these have family chords, which is a great thing to do, to know what a family chord is. For the family chords of C, the 1, 4, and 5 are our family chords. In the key of C, it's 1, our 4 chord is F, and then our 5 chord is G. Well, those preside here. Our next 3 are going to be the minors, and then the last one will be the diminished. This is how you see an Ionian mode, which brings us to modal structures, the modus. The things that give flavor and taste to all of the scales. And here's the thing, there are only 7 notes, and when we use these differently, they turn into different feelings. So the first one is judged through the eyes of the major. All music is radiated through the eyes of the major. When we do our next modus, it has a 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7. This is called Dorian. And the telltale sign of this one is the natural 6. When we do our next, we have the same minor third, because it's a minor scale, because the third position is a minor chord, as well as the second is a minor chord. We have 4, 5, and then we have our flat 6 and our flat 7. And the reason why this makes sense is our 6th mode down here is called natural minor, or Aeolian, and it has a 1, flat 3, 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. So the way you make a major, a minor, is you always flatten the 3, flatten the 6, and flatten the 7. It just so happens that this one is called Phrygian, and it has all the notes that Aeolian does, but it also has a flat 2, which is really cool because it gives you this tone. Here's what a minor sounds like. How about A minor? And when we play that flat 2, we have our... more tension starting off right off the bat with that minor second. Very cool, huh? Our next one after Phrygian is called Lydian, and it's 1, 2, 3, sharp 4, 5, 6, and 7. It's the only one of our moduses that has a sharp or an augmented note. The rest of them are pretty much flat. There are some hats on hats which use this, but we'll explain that later. And this one's called Lydian. Lydian. This one is great. In fact, Lydian is the lightest and most airy of all the modes. It is lighter than even Ionian. When we do this one, the telltale that is this, Lydian is the sharp 4. That's what makes Lydian mode different than Ionian. After that, we have our Mixolydian. Mixolydian is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it has a flattened 7th. That flattened 7th is called the minor 7th. And whenever you have a chord like a G7 or a like a C7, you are talking about a chord called a 5 dominant. This allows you to move or shift to another key by modulating or moving around to a different ear on the circle of fifths. So you could go anywhere you want on the circle of fifths, being able to use the 5th chord as a dominant. Mixolydian is the modus that talks about that. It allows you to hear rather than having a minor second resolution, which is super short, Tito, it has a major second resolution, which has a ta-do, which is still a resolution. It's just it feels like a distance lying out there. Let's see, all right, next one is going to be our Aeolian. We already talked about this. This is 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, and flat 7. This one is called Aeolian. Love it. However, Aeolian is also known as natural minor. And this is the 3, the 6, and the 7. Notice that every minor mode has the flat 3, flat 6, and the flat 7 in a diatonic scale. We'll talk about melodic minor and harmonic minor at a different date. And then the last one here is called Locrian. It has a flat 2, flat 3, 4, flat 5, flat 6, flat 7. So this one has all of them, but it includes the flat 2, flat 3, flat 5, flat 6, and flat 7. 7 flats, folks! Locrian. Locrian. Locrian by far is my favorite mode. I can do super Locrian if you add another note in there. This is great to play over diminished chords and flat 5 chords. So these are all of our modus, and what general teachers explain through the eyes of the piano or on any instrument really is C, D, E, F, G, A, and B. Here, I'll even put the C. Are going to be whole step, half step, whole step, whole step, whole step, half step. That means the intervals between C and D is a whole step. D and E, whole step. When you make C major, this is C Ionian. Crown me out. When you take off C and you start with D and add D down here, you now add that whole step that you just did. Well, we've changed it from being Ionian to Dorian. The distance between D to E is a whole step. Beautiful. But then when we go to E to F, that's our half step that we've been looking for. That's what gives all of our modus our signature. So if we were to go here and say, how do we take that same concept, but we just turn something like, how about A major? A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G sharp. How do we turn A major into A Lydian? Well, we go to the fourth scale degree and we sharpen it. That gives us which absolutely is the most lightest and most airiest of all the modes. So in order of how they affect the ear of being light and airy, happy and melodic and playful to something which has a lot of tension and pushes and pull, it basically means that all the tension of our songs are going to be between the 1 and 5. And then our 6 and our 6 is an add-on note, our 7 is an add-on note, but we use our diminished much like the 5 dominant. 1, 2. Our third one is going to be the major mode of Mixolydian. After that, we have a Dorian, which is going to be our fourth lightest mode in order. Our fifth one is going to be Aeolian. Our sixth is Phrygian. And then lastly, seventh that has the most tension is going to be Locrian. When we do this, our whole circle shifts. So if you want to start visualizing something like, I don't know, how about we'll do Mixolydian. C, D, E, C, D, A, B, F sharp, and jump. When we do C major, we had a block that was up here. It had our majors, had our minors, and then it had our diminished. Well, when we do Mixolydian, we're flattening the seventh. So do you see how the way we view the circle becomes the way that we view the modus? When you play a B flat with Mixolydian, it is much closer to our E flat. So is it off to play an E flat rather than playing like an E in the key of C, playing an E minor? Well, let's hear what those sound like. We have C major, which is, whenever we take that modus and we put a B flat into it, we have C major. Our D minor remains, but now we have an E with that B flat. Weird, huh? And then we've got our F major, G minor. We could have our A minor, our B flat major, and then our C. When going through here, that gives us our modus of having B7, or sorry, C7. When we play with these notes, we're just simply trying to change structures so we can see the circle of fifths as having tonality. One of the cool things I like to show on the circle is tonality of majors. But as we know, when you count 6 notes away in a major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, we get our relative minor. Aeolian, Ionian. Major, minor is relative. And then lastly, since we've talked about family chords, we've talked about moduses and how we see them. I don't know the theme song to Thomas. I was a little too old for that when it came out. Plus, I don't have children, so I didn't spend countless hours listening to Blues Clues and stuff like that. Although in college I did watch an good amount of Arthur, that cartoon. All right, so chord construction that we are working on works with Ione and stuff like that. What I want to do is show you how to just write a quick progression. So if you've come up with something, you could jot it down on a piece of paper. If we're doing a time signature, I would throw it out to the side. Double bar is the beginning of a progression. It lets us know how long each one of our phrasings are. If I wanted to play a 1, 4, 5, 6 progression in the key of C, I would call it 1, 4, 5, 6. I would put a double beam at the end saying that we're done. And if I wanted this to keep going, I would put a repeat so it keeps going. The thing that's really cool is if this becomes a little bit boring, you can change this around. This is a standard progression. In the key of C, we would have C major, we'd have an F major, we'd have a G major, and then we'd have an A minor. This is kind of like sometimes in a... No, it's not. That would be like a 1, 2, 3, 4 progression. Anyway, when using this, most music that you hear nowadays, or what we use for music analyzation, is called the, there are two of them. One's called the major harmonic progression, and one's called the minor harmonic progression. And I'm not going to talk about the minor one today. It has a different way of doing it. We just discussed the diatonic fitting through the eyes of the one rather than the eyes of the minor one. The harmonic, the major harmonic progression follows a certain progression. I wish I could spell. Follows an idea or a formula. Our 3 chord sounds good going to our 6 chord. Our 6 chord sounds wundervoll going to our 2 chord or our 4 chord. Our 2 or 4 chord is going to sound pretty sweet going to our 5 chord or our 7. And then our 5 or 7 chord is going to sound pretty sweet going to our 1 chord. You can do some jumps and some leaps if you want to. The whole idea is being able to feel comfortable moving around here. If you have a chord which might be here, you can have a flat 7, which is a great chord that's often used, like in the key of C, it would be B flat. So a lot of time you will use that backdoor resolution like we were just talking about, rather than having T-do, ta-do. Tool, yeah. Tool is absolutely anything but 4/4. That you can have the feeling of 4, but we're hearing 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a 1E and a 2E and all of the beats are on the off patterns. So it doesn't even feel like 4/4. Cool, so if we were writing this and I was like, I really like doing my C to my F and the G to the A minor, but I want to try something different than doing this every time, we would then maybe call this the A section. And then we would have this as being a motif that has a particular melody. So over the top we might have like... Well, the chord progression might get a little boring. What can we flip-flop out this 4 for? Oh, maybe the 2 chord. So rather than playing the F, maybe we play a D minor one of these rounds. Yeah, that D minor kind of fits. So by utilizing this, you can hear what chords or tones sound good utilizing that circle fifths. And then in a standard progression, have things that you can alter. One of the things that we talked about in our session that I wanted to include is anytime you play like a 5 dominant, you could always put a 5 dominant from another key in front of it, like a hat on a hat, and play through it. So if I wanted to play this structure and use my 1 chord, 4 chord, use a 5 chord as a 5 dominant, it feels good going back to our 1 chord or even our 6 chord. Hear how that G7 goes wonderfully into an A major 7 or A minor 7, or back to the 1. Well, what if I put like a D7 in front of my G7? backwards. Let's try it the other way, because I messed up. That feels very plagal. So we can play with these, and they're called secondary dominants. Remember, whenever you have a 5 chord and you turn it into a 5/7, it becomes a chord from another key, which allows you to have movements or modulations. So this is a pretty good amount of information. Does anybody have any questions? Does anybody have any questions about what has been covered? We covered modes out of a diatonic structure, what the name of all positions are in a diatonic scale, and then what to name the chords as far as seniority due to their diads, where they fall, major or minor, using thirds. And then we talked about the chromatic scale and 12 notes. The only thing we really didn't talk about, which I want to end on here, is when we're looking at intervals. Let's do 2 examples. Any perfect will remain a perfect, any augmentation will become a diminished, and any major will become a minor. When we play in the key of A, we have 3 sharps: F sharp, C sharp, and G sharp. The chord of A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, and G sharp is our A major spelling. If I was going to play a D major, I would have these 3 notes, and that would be a D major. D to F sharp is a major third, and F sharp to A would be a minor third. What would happen if I wanted to know what the spacing would be to this note? We're going from our D to our B. Well, let's count. D, E, F, G, A, B. Now I know there's an F sharp in the key of D, but it doesn't matter if you put sharps or flats or anything. We're just looking for the note name, starting on a diatonic with that note. D, E, F, G, A, B. That's a 6. So whatever this is going to be an interval of a 6 of some sort. When we look at these, the way we view this is our 1, our 4, 5, and 8 can be perfects. Our 2, 3, 6, and 7 can be major or minor. And then all of these can be augmented or diminished. So what is 9 minus 6? 9 minus 6 is 3. So if we take this note, the B, and then we go below D, C, and we put a B right here, the distance between this and this should be equal. So D to B is going to be called a major 6th. The opposite of a major is a minor. The distance between these two would be a minor third. And when you go to a piano or any instrument, that's what a major 6 sounds like. That's what a minor third sounds like. So this is by far the best way to do ear training and to do sight reading and learn how to do just very, very, very small amounts of it at a time. I'm not the best sight reader, but I've done it for so long now that I've become much better at it. So I would say proof's in the pudding. Go for it. Let's do another one. Let's do the key of F, and then we'll be done. 1 flat in the key of F. Let's do just an F major chord. F, A, C. What if I were to take F, and then we went to D sharp? Ooh, wee. F, G, A, B, C, D. 6. Awesome. When we put 6 here, it's the same as our last one, huh? Well, what if we took this note and we put it below? Well, that's a D sharp. This is an F. Bottom line is an E. Our D is right here, but it's a D sharp. So what we do in this preference is we go to D. I know D sharp is kind of a hypothetical key, but let's write it out. If we had D major, we would have D, E, F sharp, G, A, B, and C sharp. When we flatten the D, we get D flat. Flatten the E, we get E flat. Flatten the F sharp, we get an F natural. We would have a G flat, A flat, B flat, and then a C natural. Cool. Well, if we go the other way, D becomes D sharp, E sharp, F double sharp, G sharp, A sharp, B sharp, and you betcha, C double sharp. Although it's a hypothetical key, we can look at D sharp to F and say, is F in the key of D sharp? And right here, the answer is no, it is not. F is a double sharp. So what we have is a secondary augmentation I wouldn't even call this one as a sixth there. I would cool this one off as being the distance between our F to a D sharp. I'm sorry, F sharp. No, it's an F. F to a D sharp. When we do this, it's going to feel weird because our octave should feel like this. This is a major seventh, and then we have a minor seventh. If we have a M7 here, that must mean that the major seventh, minor seventh, what's the opposite of minor? Major. What's 9 minus 7? 2. The distance between these two is a major second, and the distance between this would be our seventh. I hope that makes sense. Going over this is how we kind of, wait, I misremembered. So there's no E sharp or B sharp. Hypothetically, no. I mean, you can write in E sharp or B sharp, but why would you write in B sharp when you can have, I mean, B sharp would have B sharp, C double sharp, D double sharp, E sharp, F double sharp, G double sharp, A double sharp. Why write in a key that has sharps and double sharps when you could just write C, no sharps and flats? It's not as hard on the eye or the fingers. And then, yeah, you could write in that all day long, but it just changes. Cool. Well, I'm going to end the video here unless anybody has any dying questions about what we did. We covered the major harmonic progression on how to write out a chord progression. We covered on intervals on how to see them on the stave. We did our modes to see that anytime you're reviewing a song or trying to come up with a melody, you could use these functionaries and then use different tones which help to express yourself using consonances or dissonances. We're not limited to 7 notes, and we don't need to play anything in just like a... We learn scales linearly, and then we utilize different mechanisms of flow, different functions, shell chords and feelings on piano. But whatever your instrument is, have fun. This is the basics of music theory all the way up to like intermediate. This is super intermediate. Kind of intermediate, but it's good to at least know major and minor. That's what we do in the beginning on most instruments to be able to play. And then all of this chord construction, seeing our triads as being a 1-3-5, we could have a 1-3 sharp 5 for an augmented, or we'd have 1 flat 3-5 for a minor, a 1 flat 3-5-5 for a diminished. Adding on a 7th note gets a little complicated after that, but that's what this channel is about. If you dig this, check out the rest of the channel. There are 11,000 videos. I am sure there's something that you will love. And if there aren't any other questions, I will be jumping off. Yeah, how do I remember the modes? I just kind of remember them through practical application, I think would be the best way to say it. When I'm trying to practice them, I mean, many teachers that I've had, or many people that I play with, try to describe the modes as you play a note, and then not play that note, you move to the next. The way that I describe modes is the meat and potatoes, or the butter behind all this, the thing that makes the mode, is the half step. So when writing melodies or something, I kind of like, move outside of a key, use the secondary dominant to get to another key. And then being able to have fun using these notes. It really comes down to knowing your scales. D minor, if you don't play a B flat, and you play a B natural, it becomes D Dorian. And I bet you, if you play, Yeah, fishy fish. I bet you if you play anything with that 5 chord, it goes back into it. So D7 goes into what? C. D7 goes into G. B7 goes into E. E7 goes into B. No. What's it going to? No, B. Yeah. My brain's breaking. Been talking too long. Anywho, thanks for popping in today. I hope this was informative for my student. Go over this here and there. There should be a plethora to go back and forth in this. If you have any questions, put in the comment section. I will get to it. Other than that, please check out the rest of the channel. There's 11,000 videos. And have a great day. Aloha to all. And to all, good night.